news this week. Health experts identify the most dangerous recreational drug. Asia Bibi is allowed to appeal her death sentence for blasphemy. And a 95-year-old Holocaust survivor repays his debt.
This is In Focus Christian News and Current Affairs.
Some health experts are saying Australia's current preoccupation with the damaging effects of crystal methamphetamine, or ICE, is misguided. Instead, they say the focus should be on the most damaging drug on the market, cheap alcohol. According to the New Daily, drug researchers have particularly singled out cask wine as being the preferred beverage of problem drinkers. They say evidence from overseas suggests governments should hike taxes for cheap alcohol products. But the political will to get tough on alcohol appears to be lacking, at least in New South Wales, where the government has backed down from introducing stricter regulations on licensed premises. According to the Sydney Morning Herald, the proposed changes were dropped before the last state election, after influential hospitality industry representatives raised objections. Meanwhile, church organisations such as the Salvation Army provide support and rehabilitation for problem drinkers. The Salvation Army, various Baptist groups and the Seventh-day Adventist Church continue to recommend an alcohol-free lifestyle. Last weekend's much-anticipated Labor Party conference in Melbourne saw a change in policy on same-sex marriage. Labor politicians will no longer be able to vote on same-sex marriage bills according to their conscience. Instead, party discipline will require them to support same-sex marriage as a bloc. For some years, the Liberal Party has also denied its parliamentary representatives a conscience vote on the issue, but their party policy is against same-sex marriage. And later in the programme, Kent Kingston will be chatting to Lyle Shelton from the Australian Christian Lobby about this and other issues coming out of the Labor Party conference. The Muslim holy month of Ramadan has been marked by deadly extremist attacks around the world. But in Indonesia's Papua province, it was Christians who were the aggressors. According to globalpost.com, a mob of hundreds attacked a mosque in Karubaga, throwing rocks and setting fire to it, as well as dozens of nearby buildings, after Christian worshippers were disturbed by the loudspeakers being used at the mosque. Police and military forces killed one person with gunfire and 10 others were injured as the riot was broken up and hundreds of Muslims were evacuated to the local military base. Christian leaders are calling for a careful investigation of the facts and say the indigenous Christians of Papua are facing constant and systematic discrimination. Pakistani Christian woman Asia Bibi has been given what may be her last chance to appeal against her death sentence for blasphemy. According to the BBC, Pakistan's Supreme Court has suspended Ms. Bibi's execution and ruled that she will be allowed to make an appeal. Asia Bibi has now been in prison for 6 years, the first woman to receive the death sentence under Pakistan's controversial blasphemy laws. Even if she were released, however, her life would be in danger. A series of death threats have been made against her and her family, who are currently in hiding. In 1938, Jewish teenager George Weidenfeld was assisted by Christian groups to escape Nazi-occupied Austria and settle in the UK. Now, 77 years later, he says it's time to repay the debt. 95-year-old Weidenfeld, who now holds a seat in the House of Lords, is funding a rescue mission that will see up to 2,000 Syrian and Iraqi Christian families airlifted to Poland, where they'll be able to live in safety. According to the Catholic Herald, Lord Weidenfeld will also cover the living expenses of the families for the first 12 to 18 months while they establish their new homes. A new international association has been founded for Seventh-day Adventists in high positions of government responsibility. In establishing the group, a number of Adventist politicians and other senior officials said they often feel isolated in their positions and misunderstood by fellow church members who are dubious about the compromises involved in holding public office. the world president of the Adventist Church, addressed the inaugural meeting of the group at San Antonio, Texas, comparing them with biblical characters who held high office, such as Esther, Joseph, and Daniel. Due to the denomination's emphasis on education and service, scores of Adventists have risen to senior government positions, particularly in the Caribbean and the South Pacific. Evangelistically minded churches put a lot of effort into helping new believers come to faith, but a church in the remote South Pacific atolls of Tuvalu has been focusing on reconnecting with members who have left. The youth group from the Adventist Church in the capital Funafuti, together with 2 mission volunteers from Fiji, made the time to visit and pray with past church members in their homes in the lead-up to a series of public meetings. The series was well attended and culminated with 44 new believers and previous church members being baptized in the ocean. A new feature film retelling the beginnings of the Seventh-day Adventist movement has been received with enthusiasm by world church leaders.
Lindsay, what have I done?
Mr. Miller and those who listen to him suffer from a grand delusion.
If you would just give God a chance.
I did that already.
Tell the World is an Australian production and was mostly shot in an historic pioneer village in Canada. Church leaders are discussing how the 2.5-hour film can be used as an educational resource for young Adventists, new believers, and others whose knowledge of the church's beginnings is hazy.
So where's the Ancient of Days?
In heaven.
You have won thousands.
I shall never again doubt the faithfulness of Scripture.
I saw the Advent believers walking on a path, and as long as they kept their eyes on Jesus, they were safe.
The producers are yet to announce an official launch date for the retail market. Since before the Protestant Reformation, stories have been told of smugglers who carried precious copies of the Scriptures into difficult-to-reach areas. But new technologies are making the process a whole lot easier. Wycliffe Associates is supplying Bible translators in restricted countries with quality high-speed computer printers, along with binders, laminators, and paper cutters. Once translations are completed, the printer gets to work, producing hundreds of copies of scripture portions for local believers, a lot easier than smuggling pallet loads of Bibles across international borders. The risk remains for churches meeting in restricted conditions. Possessing copies of the Scriptures is still seen as a criminal offence in some places. But for many Christians living with persecution, being able to have and share the Bible is worth the risk. Well, that's all from the news desk. For the rest of this week's Record in Focus segments, track this video back to our Vimeo archive. You can also see the full half-hour program on Hope Channel, the Australian Christian Channel, or Digital 44 in Adelaide. All the best and God bless. I'll see you next time.